Cinkota, Hungary, 1916. A small town caught in the historical trenches of the First World War, where anguish and fear could be smelled at every corner. Yet, in the middle of this dread, another tragedy is about to unfold, one that would shock the people even more than the war's shadow. On a quiet street, a landlord is preparing his property to be rented yet again. This was the home of a man named Bela Kiss. He was a tinsmith who had not been heard of in 2 years since joining the war. While assessing the house, the landlord noticed 7 large metal drums outside. He did not think much of them, as it was a common sight during wartime. People would store such barrels full of gas or oil to prevent shortages. Yet, upon puncturing one of the lead-sealed containers, he was met not with the smell of fuel, but with a sickening, overwhelming stench, a smell of death that clung to the air. The man who had lived in this home was Bela Kiss, a 37 years old, hardworking and successful tinsmith. He was quite well liked in the community, as he was conducting regular business with multiple partners in the industry. To the outside world, he was a trustworthy character, as per his portrayal by the Magyar Nemzet newspaper from 1907. Bela Kiss, a tinsmith in Cinkota, unmarried, lives in a furnished apartment, has his own business as a tinsmith, is regularly employed by his business partners. He is of good character. He is not in debt. He was not insolvent. He always fulfills his obligations. His lifestyle is solid, can be offered for credit. Yet, despite his charm and seemingly outgoing nature, he was never actually close to anybody in the neighborhood, and this did not pass unnoticed. The women who visited his home were strangers. They were not from Cinkota and were never seen for long. He had a seemingly innocent way of meeting them, but one that began with a lie. Police would later find a desk full of letters. Kiss, using the alias Hoffman, had placed advertisements in the lonely hearts columns of Budapest newspapers. He skillfully targeted women of good financial situation and without many relatives, convincing them to send him money and even their entire life savings. Under the pretense of searching for a wife or offering his services as a matrimonial agent and as a fortune teller, he would lure his victims onto a path from which there would be no return. The investigation revealed the cold, calculated nature of Kish's crimes. Police found old court records showing that two of his victims caught him early in his web of lies, and seeking justice, they had filed fraud lawsuits against him. Unfortunately, they mysteriously disappeared before such justice could be served. Each of the women who came to his house was met with the same fate. Strangled with a rope, their bodies later found sewn into bags and stuffed into the metal drums. The drums were filled with methanol, which is a preservative that minimized decomposition and kept the ghastly contents concealed. A search of the property uncovered a total of 24 bodies in the drums and buried around the house, some of them so well preserved they appeared to be merely sleeping. The police found a locked room inside the house, which Kish's housekeeper, Mrs. Jakubek, had been instructed never to enter. Inside, they found books on poisoning and strangulation, a chilling library of murder. Thus, his murderous nature was not instinctual, but rather knowledgeable and calculated. Every step taken was carefully planned. An even more disturbing detail emerged. Some bodies had strange puncture marks on their necks and were drained of blood, leading police to speculate that Kish may have been practicing some form of vampirism. A legend which has caught the interest of so many, part of a dark and intriguing supernatural lore, was completely shifted into a macabre practice, part of taking one last breath of life, thus earning him the title of the Vampire of Cinkota. The case was taken by Chief Detective Nagy, who knew he had to act fast. He immediately alerted the military and began the pursuit, hoping to apprehend Kish as soon as possible. On October 4th, 1916, a distraught telegram arrived, stating that a man named Bela Kiss was seen in a military hospital in Serbia, having his war wounds tended. Nagy raced against the clock, but he was too late. When he arrived at the hospital, the man identified as Kish had already fled. Having heard that the police was after him, Bela devised an escape plan. In order to confuse his pursuers, he left behind the corpse of another soldier in his bed. He had traded identities with a dead man, using the chaos of a world at war as his perfect cover. This failed attempt to capture was the closest anyone would ever come to bringing Bela Kiss to justice. For decades, the ghost of Bela Kiss was seen across continents. In 1920, a soldier in the French Foreign Legion claimed a fellow legionnaire named Hoffman was known to be exceptionally skilled with the garrote, which is a method of strangulation used as a capital punishment, as well as the main modus operandi behind Kish's horrendous acts. The man matched Kish's description, but he fled before police could arrive. In 1932, a New York City detective, Henry Oswald, was certain he had spotted Kish emerging from a subway station in Times Square, but he was later lost in the crowd. In 1936, detectives received a tip that Kish was working as a janitor in a New York apartment building. Unfortunately, by the time they arrived at the location, he had already vanished, leaving no trace behind. Bela Kiss was never seen again, only in the accounts which have inspired numerous books, films, and true crime documentaries. His fate remains unknown, his story a chilling reminder that some monsters are never caught. They simply disappear, melting into the crowd, forever a ghost lurking in plain sight. Our thoughts and prayers go to the victims whose lives were cut short way too soon. May they find peace in the afterlife. Thank you all for watching.